Welcome to the Prescription for Career Success podcast.
And I'm going to jump right into tonight's first question. So let's go for it. All right. So this was submitted by Alyssa. Alyssa says that I'm about 2 years into my first job out of college. And honestly, it's not what I thought that it would be. And it happens, Alyssa. Sometimes, you take that first job and you're excited. And Alyssa says that she's starting to feel really stuck and unmotivated, but she is nervous to leave too soon because I don't want my resume to look bad. Guess what, Alyssa? On average, most folks are staying in a job about 2 years. So it's not going to be uncommon. But her question to me is, how do I know when it's okay to move on? Well, here's what I would say. Have you maximized everything that you can gain or learn from that job? And again, there's no pressure. If you are at this point feeling like that you need to move on, the first thing I would say is I appreciate you being honest, because this is something that so many young professionals struggle with, because I came from a generation to where it was kind of like, hey, you need to get a good job and you stay there for 30 years and then you retire. But the world is no longer like that. Society is no longer like that. So when you're feeling that little tug, like, hey, I'm not getting the most out of this experience, I'm not meeting my maximum potential, you might be at a point where you're ready to, I would say, not necessarily, sometimes it's not necessarily moving on, but you look for opportunities to grow. And if you feel like that in that position, there's no longer room for you to grow, then it may be time to move on. So if you look for opportunities to grow within the position or the organization, because again, your career itself is a journey, Alyssa, and it's not going to be a straight line. So this is not that clear cut, oldie but goodie. You find a job and you work there for 30 years. This is the first job that you took out of college. So it's normal to realize that your first job isn't going to be the perfect fit for you. And so what matters is just how you approach that next step. So if you are feeling consistently unmotivated and disengaged, or like you've stopped learning, just kind of like I said earlier, right? That kind of gives you that feeling of being stuck around, even if you've tried to re-engage. So one of the things I always say is, again, before you exit, if you're working in a pretty good environment, but you feel like, hey, I'm not growing here in this environment, take a look around. Are there opportunities for you to continue to grow in that position and continue for you to develop your skills? Talk to your supervisor. This is why doing a personal development plan is so important, right? Talk to your supervisors. Are there opportunities where you can kind of do stretch assignments where you can continue to engage and grow? Now, it's usually if you're feeling quite disengaged and there are no opportunities to grow, there may be eventually time to move on. But my first piece of advice to you is to look at where you are. And again, if you're in a good environment where it's kind of like, now I'm just feeling like, well, maybe I've maxed out this position, talk to your supervisor and develop that personal development plan. Or even if you don't feel comfortable talking to your supervisor, you can kind of develop this plan for yourself. Like, be clear about where you want to go and what you need to do. And so one of the things that I'm going to tell you is like something I say all the time, right? Is I want you to focus on building a strong story around the experience that you have, because especially if you kind of have that mindset where you've been told to stay, but you know that you've outgrown that role, it's really important that you really take a look to understand that you don't want to just do something to look stable. You don't want to just stay in a job just because you want to look stable on your resume. Instead, what you want to focus on is creating that story around the job. I mean, I think 2 years is a good enough amount of time for you to build a story around the job, right? That strong story is about why you're leaving. Because again, the first thing you've already done, and this is not going to apply to everybody, if you know you're in a good environment, you've looked for opportunities to grow personally and professionally within that environment. Maybe you've looked for opportunities to grow personally and professionally within an organization. And if you've maxed it out and you're not being challenged, you're ready to move on, then you have to start shaping your story around the reasons why you exit. And here's what I'm going to suggest to you, Alyssa. As you begin to shape that story, and again, my advice is one thing, but I want you to do what's best for you, because you might go straight into I don't want to work here anymore, and you need to start shaping that story about why you're moving on. So what I want to encourage you to do is I want you to reflect on what you've learned in your current role, okay? Write down all of your tangible accomplishments, because one, you're going to need this to put on your resume, right? Add it to your resume. And then I want you to start networking with people in roles that you're curious about, because you're still very early in your career. And this is going to help you to kind of get an inside view of what those jobs really look like. So here's an opportunity for you as you begin the process of developing and cultivating your story, really building out what this path looks like for you to move forward. Because although you're saying, hey, I might not feel challenged in this role, there may have been some things that you actually are taking from this role in terms of soft skills or things that you have developed that you're unconscious of. And so you should always be constantly assessing yourself. And the final thing that I'm going to tell you, Alyssa, is don't wait until you're completely burned out to take action. Notice I said that you should be in the process of cultivating and shaping your story, planning your transition. If you have the opportunity to do that, take advantage of that. So once you're gone, it's a smooth transition, right? And you have the time to, you've networked, you've gotten to know people, you've had the time to really plan out, okay, what is it that I want to do in my next phase as I continue to grow in my career? And what steps is it going to take for me to get there? Because who knows, that next job you get might be another stair builder, right? Where you're still building skills. So it might not, that next job might not be your dream job either, but maybe it's getting you to where you want to go. And so don't wait until the last minute. The best career moves, they happen when you're proactive and you are not desperate for change. I cannot say that enough. Don't take the first job that you get. Be strategic in how you plan. And right now it sounds like to me, Alyssa, that you have the opportunity to actually do a strategic job search. Hey, Adrian, how are you doing? I'll answer your question right after this. Now, my final word to you, Alyssa, is if you frame your transition as growth and not just like, oh, I hated my job. First of all, never go into an interview like that, right? You're always just kind of look at what did you learn from this experience, and then you're going to build your story around that, and then you're going to speak positively to it. And that's just part of you planning the next transition in terms of where you want to go in your career path. So I hope that that advice that I just gave you kind of resonates, because it sounds like you're in a good place where you can actually plan out some of the things that you want to do. But I encourage you, before you make that exit, and you can plan your exit and still be doing all the things that I'm saying, maxing out professional development opportunities, looking for stretch projects, engaging with your supervisor on things that you want to do or achieve, because maybe you plan to leave in a year or 6 months or so, and you can do that in a very strategic way.